Welcome back to the Mandarin Blueprint podcast. I am here with Yann, who has kindly agreed to chat with us about his experiences on the Mandarin Blueprint method. And we were chatting just before the call, Yann, and you were saying that you wanted to learn Chinese just out of pure curiosity, fascination with the language. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, actually, I'm already speaking 3 languages. So yeah, first of all, hi, Phil. Yeah, I'm already speaking 3 languages. 2 of them are native languages, and then there's English, obviously. So I'm German, half French. And I think for like 10 years, I've been asking myself, okay, which is going to be the next language I learn, right? And it was like Russian or Spanish, right? I'm European, so don't reach too
Sure.
far, right? Um, but in the end, I mean, it's kind of funny, but those languages actually got excluded just because of the rolling R, because I just happen to not be able to pronounce
Oh,
that, right?
yeah.
Although I really tried to write for 10 years or something, but it's just not possible, right? Or
Yeah,
not
sure.
really. I mean, I can technically do it, but it sounds like, okay, he really needs to force himself, and it's not fun to
Mhm.
speak like that, right?
Right, right.
And then just like maybe a year ago, I more and more realized, okay, I mean, I knew China was really getting big, and then yeah, but then at some point it came to me, okay, but China could actually be good candidate for a new language, right?
Hmm.
Um, Chinese, I mean, and and then also I think the thing that most motivated me, besides just want to learn a new language, was that there's so different pictures drawn of China and in the West and in China itself, and you get so and not only different pictures, but the way they differ, like they're way off, right,
Hmm.
from each other. And I just it's just very interesting. It would be super interesting for me to see both pictures, right?
Right.
Um, yeah. But anyway, it's just in the end, it's just for fun, right?
Sure, sure. Well, a question I always have. So I guess you now three languages, working on a fourth. What have you found has been the biggest benefit to knowing multiple languages?
Yeah. Well, obviously speaking them, when I
Sure.
meet somebody who speaks French in a shop and has a problem, I can just help him or
Hmm.
them. Um, yeah. So that's
Yeah.
kind of nice. I don't actually. I need English every day, right? In my job, and I
Hmm.
hope I will need Chinese at some day, but it's going to be a bit longer, I think, until I need it, because
Sure.
I'm working for a startup, and they are also like expanding to the Asian market, but yeah, for a developer, I'm a software developer, by the way, for a
Hmm.
software developer to be able to speak Chinese in his job, that's gonna take a bit longer, I think.
Yeah, sure, sure. Well, I will say this, Chinese, when it comes to after you've built your foundation, learning more technical things, I think is actually easier than some other languages because if you know the characters, like say the 3,000 most important characters and then maybe another like 2 or 300 that are more specific, the way that they label things. So like I'll read the back of say like the ingredients or something on a box and they'll have chemical compounds in it, but I can sort of get what they are. They much better than I could with English. So with English, there's all these chemical terms. This is just obviously it's not programming, although programming can be similar. I find that a lot of the different Chinese commands around a computer are very easy to understand if you know the characters. But I was reading these chemical compounds and I thought if I were going to learn chemistry, I'd rather learn it in Chinese than I would in English because there wouldn't be the terms would be easier to grasp
Hmm.
right off the bat. So you might find it's easier than you think when you get to that level. But of course, building the foundation does take a while. Um,
Yeah.
but
Now that you
yeah.
Yeah, now that you say that, actually, I came across some like open source projects that were purely in Chinese, right? And I was super interested. I first of all, I was Like, hmm, to be honest, I was a bit disgusted, like, oh man, the standard language for software development is English and so on. And then
Hmm.
they just, everything is Chinese. Nobody understands it except Chinese and the very
Hmm.
rare people happening to speak Chinese. But yeah, maybe that is something, right? There's actually quite some popular open source projects that are documented in Chinese, mainly. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So that could be interesting for you. The what and I want to clarify my question a little bit. I mean, yeah, certainly knowing multiple languages will help you communicate directly with people who speak that language. I was more thinking in terms of like, have you noticed any change in your sort of thinking about things? Has learning different languages helped you look at problems differently, or think about how you're gonna just simple things like maybe how you plan your day or something? Have you noticed anything like that?
Or how plan? Ah, you mean by learning? No, actually, I'm really like, I need to do my Anki. When am I gonna do it? Oh, I'm just having fun doing it now during my lunch break or in the evening. I don't actually care. I just
Hmm.
find the time.
Right, right.
Regarding thinking structures, I've always grown up I've grown up in a family where actually we decompose language a lot, right? So my mother had to learn French, and she had just like those self-made up rules for the language, for the grammar, for everything, and also even for German. She was really analyzing her own language. My father also had to learn German, obviously. So actually, that's something I grew up with, but it's super nice to see that in Chinese too, and especially in Chinese, with all those compound words made up of two characters, and everything kind of makes sense, even if you have to, a little bit to think about it. But you learn a lot about the philosophy of the language,
Hmm.
um, just by learning the language, just by learning the writing system, especially like a sheep, a large sheep is beautiful, right? That's
Hmm.
hmm,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
says something about the story, right? Um,
Sure.
yeah,
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I find that Chinese has definitely made it easier for me to categorize things because it's a super categorical language. So many things are you have your basic idea and then they just add modifiers onto that idea. And sometimes the idea is so basic that it's even more basic than what I had in English. So it's like
mm,
it's pretty cool because where we need to categorize things to some degree to be able to think at all. But on the other hand, our categories aren't necessarily objective. It's not like, well, this is the category for all humans in all places. Another set of humans might have defined the category border somewhere differently. And so having both English and Chinese for that has certainly helped me. And I was, I was curious if that was a similar thing with, maybe French, German, and English, but I'm sure that you'll find that to be the case with Chinese as well. Um, but
yeah.
yeah. By the way, I was watching the Netflix show Dark recently, and it was just making me want to learn German. I don't know if you've seen it, but
Okay.
it's all in German. I love how German sounds.
Yeah,
So anyway,
if you want to talk about films, I'm very much the wrong person. I don't watch TV at all. No Netflix, nothing. It's
fair.
actually something that makes creating movies a bit difficult because I have not consumed any mainstream media for a
Sure.
very long time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always go back to childhood or you can just go from memory because it's like it doesn't have to, like,
yeah,
obviously, if you weren't watching TV, you were doing something else. So then you'll have
mm,
more memories of other stuff. So it's like what's nice about the mnemonic sort of visualization techniques is that there really is always a path. It's just you have to figure out where
yeah,
the path is and then find that sort of neural structure that's already set up. But there's almost always a way around it. Um,
yeah.
Okay, cool. So you were wanting to learn Chinese. You're just curious about the next step. And so how did you then find Mandarin Blueprint? Had you looked for anything before finding us?
Um, yeah, actually, I looked up. I started on YouTube, obviously. Just
Hmm.
or and Google and I looked for Chinese courses. Um, and I don't actually know how I found Mandarin. I think it was an ad. maybe even on YouTube. I don't know if you do something, if you do ads on YouTube. Um,
We might have at
but
some point.
it feels like it was an ad. At least I remember myself getting to the website and thinking, oh man, this really sounds interesting. It's like,
Mhm.
you know, I have seen some of your previous case studies and you already said that IT guys like structured things, and yeah, and that is
Mhm.
really what happened, yeah. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh man, these guys really have a system. They really have worked on something that seems really structural, right? Structured,
Hmm.
and has scientific evidence, and that this working with SRS seems really good. Actually, I had not worked with SRS before, so spaced repetition. Mm,
Hmm.
but yeah, it made all sense, and I was in, right, for the 14 days trial, and then yeah, I bought
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Like it's it's fun to hear that, even though obviously that's what we're going for. We want people to understand that it's the type of thing where you can take the difficulty out of Chinese if you just break it down. Like it's
Yeah,
almost like really it's kind of true of anything, but uh, there's no individual step that's so like I can't wrap my head around a horizontal line and combining it with another one. Like it's like they're pretty simple steps. It's just that there's so many of them because it's this different written
yeah,
language. So that being the case, we just want to take away the fear factor, I guess. It's like you look at Chinese and you go, how on earth could I do that? And it's like, well, we've laid out a path that gets you, I mean, I'm working on the advanced course right now, and it's really fun because I can tell that like in first of all, I've gotten better at like analyzing the language, and so I'm faster at it. And then I can also go, uh, I can also see that we're going to be able to get it to the point where there's literally nothing else that you need. I mean, like, obviously, other online tools are great. And I'm definitely not suggesting that you should only use Mandarin Blueprint, but we're going to get it to the point where theoretically all you would need is Mandarin Blueprint. And then you could just read native Chinese materials and you wouldn't need
yeah.
anything else. So, like, that is, I got to nerd out on that. And then I just go, hey, other people, like, realize that this is what we're doing. We're setting it up so you just walk the path only. You don't have to do any other extra research. I mean, we're not quite there yet. I don't feel like at the end of the intermediate course you can quite read uh native Chinese content quite yet. I mean, you can, but like you'll have a lot of stuff you don't get. But then by the end of the advanced course it'll be, there's barely anything you won't be able to read. um
Yeah. But by the way, there's something else that actually like dragged me to Mandarin, because there's an I don't call it by their don't call them by their names, but there was another main player on the Chinese course market that I started had a trial period with, and it was just like, okay, well, we'll start with some sentences, and also with counting from zero to 10, and to basically 100. And that was all nice and fine, but the problem was that they didn't introduce the pronunciation. So I was like, what am I freaking doing, right? I have
yeah.
had really no idea what I was doing. It was just like, okay, I have to reproduce those sounds, but I don't
Hmm.
know how, right? I don't know
Yeah,
if I get it right. There's
you don't know what
no
the
clue about it.
pinyin represents. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then during your let's say ad video, right? You said that you have a thorough an introduction to the pronunciation and how important it is, and I was just like, yeah, exactly, right.
Right,
that's
right.
that's
Yeah.
exactly what I want, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true of any language, that getting a grasp on the most important syllables is such a huge help in the early days. And then in Mandarin, it happens to be that it's possible to learn all of it in a relatively short period of time because it's not from a syllabic perspective, it's not that big of a language. Obviously, from a
Yeah,
character perspective, it's huge, but like the fact that that's possible is different than other languages. English has like 16,000 syllables. So it would
yeah,
be inadvisable to just be like, let me learn all the syllables first. It's
mm,
better to, learn some things and then move into the actual learning of the content and figuring it out as you go. But in the case of Mandarin, there's only 420 unique syllables. So it's like, and then half of them are easy to say. So it's like, all right, well then let's just get right into, the hard ones, and then from there everything becomes a lot easier. And I wish I had learned that lesson myself when I started with Mandarin. Like, I fixed my pronunciation problems now, but I had to kind of like do it a few years in, where I'd like made several mistakes and I was saying certain things wrong and I just didn't know certain things. And it made it a lot harder to like uproot. There's this Chinese word,
Mm,
根除, which is like to root, to like pull up by the roots. And that's
mm,
what it felt like to fix my pronunciation problem. So I was glad that Luke, put together that course, because it made a huge difference for even me, but certainly the people on our course. Um, so you did the pronunciation course, and then you moved into the sort of mnemonic visualization for learning individual characters. So tell me about your experience doing that, because that's not something that is necessarily like, had you had any experience doing mnemonics before?
no, actually, I mean, yes, technically, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Everybody uses them somewhere, but not in such a systematic way. Absolutely not. So I was
Right.
always interested. I was for years. I had been interested in that memory palace thing. When I heard that there's something like that, and I was really like, I didn't actually know it was memory palace that you were doing. And when I found out that this is actually the thing that I always wanted to investigate, and I was very happy that actually
Oh
I'm
yeah.
now using it, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, no, I had no experience.
Right. Right.
So,
So as you were doing it, were you skeptical at all?
um, yeah, actually, no, not at all. I
Okay.
was, I thought, I mean, I had already heard people speak very well of it, right? Like for
Mm,
example, medicine students who learned the anatomy of the human body with it. I don't know how how they do it, but yeah,
hmm.
I was quite sure it was going to work. It was actually, I found it quite hard. I think there was one comment actually in one of the earlier lessons where I was like, I made actually a film out of like a movie out of my frustration. Like it took me literally, I think, several days to come up with a movie scene. In the end, I was just like, okay, my actor is standing in that kitchen, right, and shouting at me, okay, you're gonna take years for this movie, right? Just give up, right? And the end, but the thing was, the extra character was year, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's
I don't
actually
know
one of the
if you,
trickier characters in the early stage of the course. So it's not, yeah,
yeah,
like that makes sense. Of course, it's weird because there's all these meta skills that you're building as you go through it, including your ability to do the movie method at all. So like, if it's the 14th time you're doing it, you're still brand new. It's
mm,
like you're still getting the hang of everything. And then when it's the 2000th time you've done it, you're so quick you can't believe it. Like, you're just like, I've
yeah,
already got it. Like, it's wild how fast you can get at the end, because you're just like, you see the elements and you just have to put them in your head, and then you just go, like, sometimes it just, you don't even feel like you're trying to do it. It's just like you're discovering it. It's like, okay, there's the scene, because you train your brain to like open itself up to itself almost. It's kind of
mm,
meta in that way, but it's like you switch into this idea where you just go, okay, clearly I have past experiences that relate to the raw concept here. So
mm.
I just need to attach the Chinese to it, and your brain kind of gets the hang of it after a while. So like, that was at character 14. Was there a point where you realized like that you were getting better at it?
Yeah, actually quite late. I think it was way past character 100 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I took quite long to actually get the technical things nailed. So really
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, this is that prefix or initial, and therefore I am there, and it's that how do you say, that actor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in the end, now it's just like, okay, that place, that actor, those props, what am I gonna do with that keyword, right? And
Yeah.
that's super cool, right? The development is I don't know why it took so long, but I think it's like perfectionism. Do you say that in English? Like,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
uh, so
I know the feeling.
Yeah, so it's just like, oh man, I need to come up with a perfect scene, right? I need to memorize this somehow, right?
Yeah.
But you,
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in the end, you've got Anki, right? And even if your
Yep.
scene is just like absolutely not spectacular, right? It's still gonna stick, right? Even if
Yeah.
if it takes twice as long as twice as long, it's still good, right? Um,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
so that's something I actually changed. I changed my like my quality assurance internally, like
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
uh,
Yeah. That
so,
perfectionism,
from
it's a killer. So you were saying?
yeah, especially when I mean it's actually a very good thing that you actually make sure that you actually describe things that make movies stick more, like memes or stuff you've seen in movies and like special effects and so on. But
Hmm.
I have never I've been as I told you, I've just always in all my life I've tried to keep my brain just like clean, right? Because I actually need a lot of like creativity for my job, right?
Hmm.
um I don't know if this is really the like 100% working, right? But
Hmm.
it's just the way I approach it, right? And
Hmm.
so I don't have so many references, and it just but I found out in the end that actually it's just okay to have just a regular scene, even if it doesn't make sense. Like for example, for for Go, um, like
Hmm.
Chu, right? I've got the
Hmm.
scene that I've got a pot of soil, right, and I've got a musical triangle under it, and I've got the queen saying, "Oh, and now walk," right? And that thing just starts to walk, and that's it, right? It's just like
Hmm.
totally ridiculous, doesn't make sense, but it's so previously I would have been like, "Oh man, that's a terrible scene. I can't do that." But now I say, "Okay, doesn't make
But you
sense.
remember it.
Great."
Yeah. That happens all the
That's it.
time. It's annoying almost. It's like you think I should come up with something better than this, and it's so simple, and you just remember it forever. And then there's other ones where you go, "That scene was the greatest scene. I'm gonna remember that." And
Mm,
then like within 2 minutes,
yeah.
you're like, "Wait, what was Arnold Schwarzenegger doing?" And so like it's kind of like that. That always happens. So it's that's part of the reason. Like and I empathize a lot with the perfectionistic perspective
Mm,
on this, especially at the layer of like sentences and grammar when you get into that, because I was like that when I was learning Chinese, and I went to university and I tried to just use university to like answer my study questions, because I mostly was doing my own system, which was part of the nascent form of Mandarin Blueprint. But I would go in and I'd be like, why is it like this? And the teachers would always try to answer and whatever, but then it took me a long time to understand that it was like, you're not going to figure this out intellectually. You're going to
mm,
figure this out emotionally. What, by reading stuff, by watching stuff, mostly by reading stuff in my case,
mm,
because I just like reading, and I like reading Chinese a lot. And that just was what finally changed it for me. It was like, it's actually kind of a waste of time to think about why, because all that time you spend thinking about why, you could just be getting more input, and you could just be reading more stuff, and then what's funny is that I answer people's questions like all the time. And I say, well, you don't really use this word in this context, you use it in that context. But the reason why I know is just because I read a lot. It has nothing to do with learning it in the past. I never went like, well, in this case, you say mi bu, and in this case, you say bu chang, and in this case, you say bu jiu. No, not that. It's just like I've just seen the
mm.
words enough times. And so that's another area of perfectionism. And we have a few people in the course, and I like them. They'll just like always ask, like, wait, shouldn't it be like this or shouldn't it be like that? As if the Chinese language is based on their current understanding of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you just didn't know you could do it like that yet. Now you do. So just keep
Mm.
going, keep reading. And so, and with the Henza movie method as well, you know, I finally at a certain point figured it out. I was like, oh, just make stuff. Just make stuff up, and then Anki will pick up the
Yeah.
mistakes. Anki will clean up for you and go, actually, for these 15 characters, what were you thinking? That was not so good. And you go, okay, let me redo it. But the thing is, you're redoing it built on something that you already had. Like, you already built your framework of the scene, and you go, it wasn't memorable enough though. So let me let me make the prop flaming and bright and giving off heat so that I remember it better. And then, next thing you know, you got it. So yeah, I definitely empathize with that side of things. Um,
Yeah, cool.
yeah. How far are you into the course now again?
Character 178 or something. Yeah.
Okay, so
So
you're
not very
starting to
far.
read some sentences then, I suppose. How is
Yes,
that
actually,
going?
it's quite hard.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
really, at least, especially when you like shoot the first, I don't know how many sentences to us. I mean,
Hmm.
the first time, the first batch of sentences that people in the course get is quite large
Hmm.
intentionally, right? If I get it right.
Yeah.
So um, that was kind of a hard landing, right? Because then
Sure.
you realize, okay, I know the characters by themselves, like individually, but making up like reading sentences is totally different story.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I have to be honest. I just I read some sentences from time to time, but I concentrate more on the characters at the moment, just because
That's perfectly fine.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Um,
totally fine. You can take them at different paces. That's why we put the sentences in the second half of each level. So if you want, you can just be like, all right, I want to stay in the character learning mode. I mean, eventually you
mm,
got to do it. But like, what's nice is that if you just learn characters and words for a while, then you go back to the sentences and what some of the words that we call top down words aren't top down anymore because you've learned the characters and
yeah,
words by jumping ahead. It's
yeah,
perfectly fine to do that. I mean, like the beginning of phase 3 is when it's the hardest, obviously. I mean, it's like the beginning of phase 4 is when it's the hardest to read long form content and so on and so forth. But it's totally fine. Like I learned 1,500 characters before I learned any kind of anything more than that. Like that was a weird thing for me to do. I think that I was kind of in the minority by doing that, but I just was like, I'll learn words and grammar and stuff later. I know I got to learn these characters. It's like learning the ABCs of Chinese. So I'll just learn all these characters. And I learned 1,500 characters from the Heisig book before he had come out with part 2. So I had to stop for a
okay,
while. And then I went back and was like, okay, let me learn how to like use these characters. But it's perfectly fine to go ahead with the characters. But, like look at the sentences with like some curiosity. Just kind of see if you can understand them.
yeah,
Like I think people get a little stressed about them and it's like there's no need to get stressed. Just sort of like look at them, see if you can make sense of it. If you can't, it's okay because you're going to have sentences are infinite. You're going to have a million opportunities to later sort of get how the sentence is structured. And so yeah, it makes sense.
yeah. There's actually two things. The first thing is I actually started when I do sentences, I started just getting the sentences filled. They are those how do you say that, holes in the sentences, right?
Yeah, the close
And
delete.
on the flashcard, close delete, right? Um, Actually, I don't do that. I just look at the complete sentence because it just adds a bit of more an additional difficulty. I just
Sure.
don't want to have at the moment.
Also
And
fine.
also they are read to me, so that's also very nice. So really, it's just like not getting the whole, like, how do you say that, um like taking the whole step at once, just like um a little small
Yeah,
help.
sure.
And also sometimes I felt a little bit at the beginning. I felt so stressed about those sentences that I just thought to myself, okay, I'm more interested in the characters at the moment, and why not just follow what I'm interested in? And I
Sure.
know for myself that there will be the time where I will just like sucking up all the sentences just because I'm so interested in them, right?
Hmm.
Um, I've learned that actually following your interest is more important than following a system
Yep.
sometimes.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, and therefore I'm quite relaxed about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Although
think that sorry, go ahead.
yeah, although sometimes I'm just like, oh man, I've started taking some very few courses in on italki, and I'm like, okay, I am not currently not able to make up the most simple sentences, right? It feels a bit
Hmm.
weird, but um yeah, it's just the
Well,
way I'm
yeah, I
interested
mean,
in it.
if you're only 170 characters in and you're also not putting a lot of emphasis in the sentences, then that's completely to be expected. Like you have to get
Yeah,
a lot of input before you can reasonably expect to have something to say because it just takes your brain, it has to pattern recognize the structures of sentences a bunch of times, and there's a lot of different sentence structures. So like each one, it's got to recognize it like 10 to 20 times
Mm.
before there's like it's almost like a key in a lock that like it's like there's the pattern, there's the pattern, there's the pattern, and then suddenly it figures out like, oh, this is a common pattern, and it kind of happens all at once. Where you realize, oh, I could put a noun there, or I could put an adjective there, I could put any adjective there, or whatever, and
Mm.
you eventually kind of figure that out. But it's unconscious. It's not like you have a moment where you figure it out like consciously. But
Yeah.
secondly, you need a lot. Like it's to be really fluent in the language, you need like millions of sentences. But like to get to like conversational fluency, it's still, certainly a lot more than you have so far. But like, that's why you just keep going. You just keep adding a little bit each day. The question you just got to ask yourself is whether or not the thing that you're doing is advancing you or not. And if you're learning a character, of course that's advancing you. You have to learn the characters. So like it's
Yeah.
perfectly reasonable to follow your interest in that way. And like it's only natural that if you do that enough, you'll eventually be like, well, I want to start using these a bit more. And so
Yeah,
uh
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, that was the we used to entirely integrate the sentences and the characters, and we made a decision, I think about 6 months ago now, to separate them out so that people could do that, so that people could just focus on the characters and the words alone, and then leave the sentences for later. And they're already separated out into different flashcard decks, so if you like, you can just avoid the vocab and context decks for the time being. But yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I appreciate that. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like also you changed something in the actual course, like you changed the order so people can first of all concentrate on the characters and then in the end concentrate on the sentences, which
Mm.
seems a bit. I mean, there's a pro and con, obviously, but there's
Mhm.
for both sides. For both ways to do it, because in the end you're just like, okay, I finished this level, right? And for me it's just like, oh, and now I have to review all those sentences, right? um
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it's good the way it is. It's really good the way it is. and
Yeah, well, there's this
and I
old. Yeah, go ahead.
and I'm totally relaxed with however I know what I'm missing. I know what I still have to review. It's all really well laid down. And the only thing is, so I really trust that I will get interested in it at the right time. I mean, I'm one of the most slow learners on your platform probably, um, but I know that even if you do it at a very slow pace steadily, you're gonna get there, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, like it's like
And
you're a relatively young guy, so like you got, even if it took you 10 years, you still have a lot of life left after that to to be able to use Mandarin. So like that's another element to it. Like we always have to think in terms of like what could the fastest person, how fast could somebody do
mm,
it, so that we can, think about it that way, cuz that's good for marketing and stuff. But like
yeah.
that's not really like what we're that's not the spirit of what we're trying to do. It's just, but there's also like the reality of like people are comparing things, and like technically you could, if you spent 8 hours a day on Mandarin Blueprint and it was like your
Mm,
main focus in life, you could get through the whole thing in, it would be the type of thing that you're like, people say you can't pass the highest HSK test in X number of years, and then somebody using Mandarin Blueprint could probably do it. But then it's like, but that's not, who cares? Like, so you got it in 2 years as opposed to 4 years, as opposed to 6 years. You still have years and years of speaking Mandarin in your life.
mm.
So it's like, when you get to the, quote unquote finish line is sort of a moot point. I think it's just that you're making progress. But yeah. So, okay. So let's talk. I want to ask you a little bit about some of the other elements of the course that are a bit more sort of interactive. So, I learned Mandarin from a book called Remembering the Simplified Hanzi, which was fine. But if I didn't understand something that Heisig said, it just, there's not much, it's just a book. I could email him, I guess, and see if he gets back to me. But, you know, the Mandarin Blueprint's different. We have comments on every video. We have a community forum. We have, a weekly podcast and things like that. So how have you experienced the sort of community aspect of the course in that way?
Um, Actually, two things. The first thing is I really like your responsivity, or no, how do you say it? Responsiveness. So
Yes.
even from of you two guys, I'm sometimes really amazed that actually I post a comment and like 1 hour later it's already answered, right? Um, Regarding the community, I hardly use it at the moment. The forums, it's probably, I don't know
Sure.
why,
It's fine.
but I think it's just because the course is just that well made, right? There's not many open questions left, and if so, well, there's so many comments like below every lesson
Mm-hmm.
that most of the time it's just already answered, right?
Mm.
And if not, I just post a question and it's answered. So
That's cool.
I'm very happy with it, right?
Yeah.
So most of
Yeah,
the
because
time there's
that's the
no open
type of
questions.
thing you don't. It builds up over a long period of time. Like we answer lots of questions, and I still view it as like this is integral to the course because,
Mm,
we don't know exactly what's missing. Like we do remember being beginners, but you always have that thing when you're already advanced building a course where you're like, yeah, they'll just get this. And then you're like, oh no, it's not so obvious. And then somebody asks a question and then we make it, we clear it up there. And uh when we first started doing that, of course, there were lots of open questions. So it's kind of cool to hear you say that. I mean, there are still a lot of open questions, I'm sure,
mm.
considering that we do get lots of questions coming in every day. But that's nice to hear from from somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I mean, obviously, I mean, if you have troubles coming up with a scene, still sometimes happens. You just go scroll down and say, "Oh, that's actually a good idea," and that's
Mm.
it, right? It's just that simple. So I
Yeah.
really like the comments section. Have to say.
Yeah, a lot of people have paid it forward because they're just leaving their scenes and like, it's theoretically it's slowing them down, to write it out and make a comment, but they're willing to help other people that are coming along the way. It's very it's great. I'm super um we're very grateful for everybody's interaction, and so we're just going to try to keep facilitating that as we move forward. Um, Now, obviously, we don't want to just be like the Mandarin Blueprint method is perfect, doesn't have any problems. Like, I'm sure that there are areas where we can improve. Do you have any suggestions for how we can improve the course?
Um, yeah. Um, I made some notes for
Mm,
that. So um, yeah, I think there's one small like puzzle piece missing, and that is actually basic conversational sentences. I think somewhere in the course, like in the pronunciation mastery or in phase 2 or 3, or you
hmm
could actually go with a very fair amount, like little amount of top-down sentences. It's just like, okay, how am I going to say how are you, or
mm,
like very basic stuff.
yeah.
Um, it's just like I don't know, maybe even as bonus lessons, just like okay, and bonus, I don't know, Anki decks or whatsoever.
hmm
Um, the thing is that if I just take Mandarin Blueprint the way it is, and I'm at 150 characters, it's yeah, it's sometimes you're there and your teacher asks you, okay, when did you stand up, or what did you have breakfast today, right? And I'm just
hmm
like, can you repeat the sentence? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
we're
It's
definitely, but when you build bottom up, you sometimes, I mean, that's the advantage of top down learning, right? Sometimes you need to know where the toilet is. And
yeah.
that's so, you got to be able to ask that question. But then, obviously all this stuff does eventually come up, but it's like we
Mm,
build it that way. So, yeah, basically your suggestion is to get more high frequency spoken content in the course earlier. This is something that we've given a bit of thought to,
mm,
and I think it's a way that we can start to improve phase 3. So like we have all these long-term plans. Obviously the main focus at the moment is building out the advanced course, because that's going to get people to the point where they can learn on their own. But we also recognize that each one of the phases has like areas where we are planning to improve things, like, and that's kind of in the vein of what we're thinking of with phase 3. So like in phase 3, we want to we want to go through all the sentences again and see if we can get rid of any that have too many top down words and replace them with better sentences. So we're going to do like an audit of the sentences. But then secondly, to do a bit more like holding your hand through the sentences, and then maybe even taking your suggestion and tangenting into like, okay, here's a simple sentence and here's how you might use that in a simple conversation, you know.
Mm,
So of course that the tricky thing about that is that can quickly lead to people starting to I guess like there's so many tangents that can come from that, right? And the tangents, if they're all top down, it becomes really hard to remember,
mm.
you know, like because so you know we have to do that with caution. But I agree. I think that that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, actually, I also thought about it, and I thought, okay, it's definitely not trivial to do that in a manner that is not like giving a bad twist to the course, right? Because it's just, if it's only like solely top down, then, or even if it's only half top down, that's not like matching the actual course's philosophy. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think so. You know, if when I thought about it myself, I was like, okay, what would be the moment where I'm most open to it? And I just like at the end of some level where you've got the bonus material, I was always like, oh, now it's like watching YouTube, right? Bonus material, right? And it's
Hmm.
just like having a fun time, and that would be actually the best moment for me personally, right? Where I would be open to, okay, now it's just going to be something completely different, like, oh, let's learn a few top-down sentences. I don't know.
Right, right. No, yeah, that could be cool. Like having sort of some bonus videos, and we yeah like emphasize that this is not like specifically a part of the method. I mean, we'll consider some things like have you learned some of the basic words for it, but yeah, this is a good point. And
Mm,
yeah, something that I think that will like you know what happens with a Mandarin Blueprint learner compared to say a conventional learner is that you know at the beginning the output element is like I don't know, it's more like a hockey stick graph with Mandarin Blueprint in the sense that it's going to be pretty low for a while output wise. Obviously, you're gaining
yeah.
lots of input and necessary knowledge, which is what leads you to be able to take off later. But that's kind
Mm,
of after the foundation course is over, where it even really becomes possible to have start having tutoring sessions. And then but like when you have those tutoring sessions, we get a lot of people who report that they're like, oh man, I started talking to the tutor and I didn't even realize I had things to say, and then like they were able to say stuff. But that's after level 36, so that 592 characters in. So during that time, you know, learning a few simple conversations might be a good idea there, just being like, hey, you know, what time did you eat breakfast today? I ate it at 6:30, like that type of thing, just getting those basic things down. um that's a good
I mean,
idea.
yeah, actually, now when like I feel like I'm very near to it actually, for those basic sentences. It's just that I need to practice them. Yeah.
Hmm.
Actually,
Hmm.
it's not such a big thing. Yeah.
Right.
Um, I've got also other points. It's just like
Sure.
Kajabi for, how's it called? Kajabi or what?
Yeah,
For
Kajabi that runs the course platform. Yeah.
yeah, for Android it's super slow. I know you probably can't do anything about it, but I even use the web version of it on my phone because it's just,
Right.
I can't use it on my Android.
Yeah,
Um,
when they came out with the app, it didn't even work for our course because our course was too big, which is
hmm,
part of the reason that we cut it up into. It wasn't the only reason. We also wanted to sell the courses separately if we wanted to, but
hmm,
like it used to be phases 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were all in one course, and it was so big that the Kajabi app just couldn't load it no matter what. So
hmm,
like one day we got an email saying, "Hey, we have an app now from Kajabi," and we were like, "Okay, cool. That's I guess we'll check it out." And then people started downloading it and then complaining to us that it didn't work, and we were like, "Well, it's never worked." You know, it's like just this thing that Kajabi made and it never worked. And now it at least works. But yeah, I've heard other people on Android say that it's slow, and like all unfortunately our only recourse there. I mean, it's the advantage and disadvantage. Like the pro of having a resource like Kajabi is that we pay a fraction of what it would cost to
hmm.
build our own thing, but the
Yeah,
disadvantage is something like this. You know,
yeah, exactly. So I totally get it. And I was thinking, okay, why don't they write their own app? And then I was going through it. Okay, what would it mean? I mean, I'm a software developer.
mhm.
I was it didn't take me a minute to know why not.
We built the wireframes of an app a few years ago, and
Mm,
yeah, we brought it to these developers, and they were like, "You're going to need a lot of money to make this," and we were like, "Okay,
mhm,
well, maybe someday." We still have the wireframes. I mean, we might end up building the app off of the new flashcard software that we're working on. We'll
mm.
see. You know, we'll have to see how functional it ends up being, but yeah, if you'd like to join the beta test on that, I can't remember whether you signed up for the beta test, but like we would love to have computer programmer feedback on
Yeah,
that stuff. So um
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, we just it's not that Anki is bad. Anki is actually great once you get used to it, but unfortunately it excludes a lot of people who aren't particularly tech savvy, and sometimes it has problems that Luke and I don't understand. Like we'll send out a new Anki deck to people and it'll be like it deleted my data, and I'm like I don't know why. And so there'll be
Mm,
where we need to switch to something else that's a little bit, because Anki's like a jack of all trades type of software that can do so much, but it does so many things that we don't need it to do. So it's like all that extra sort of programming is just it just confuses things. But anyway, that's a separate issue. So yeah, sorry, I didn't want to stop you. Did you have any more recommendations?
um, Actually, not really. I mean, very small things, not even worth mentioning. Like, oh, actually, one thing is, when you just described the codes, the tone Sandy rules, I actually it took me quite long to actually figure out that the tone Sandy rule for E is exactly the same as for boo. Um, the the only difference is when it's used as a number. So
Right.
I wonder if this would help others, if it was just mentioned explicitly. I don't actually remember
Well,
if it's.
yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that boo is naturally a fourth tone. So yeah,
Mm,
I guess it does kind of work like boo in that sense, but because E is naturally a first tone, like boo is not
yeah,
changing when it comes
yeah,
before a first, second, or third. So it's not really a tone sandy. It's only when it comes before another fourth that it changes to second tone. And yes,
mm,
effectively E is the same in the sense that if it comes before first, second, or third, it changes to fourth tone. And but it is actually a change because its natural tone is first.
yeah.
But like that's
It's
it's
a.
all there.
I,
It's in the
I just. I
materials,
mean,
but yeah.
yeah. I mean, I just wrote it in the comments. So if somebody's really like also struggling, they probably will read the comments anyway. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
Cool.
Well,
Yeah, that's mostly it. I mean, I've got speaking of stuff to improve, actually not improve, but I was like, oh, actually yes, improve on the website, even as a subscribed member and even as a logged in member. It's just like when I click on like there's this login button and there's the trial button. When I click on the try button, I get an email like you really missed out on something. You just subscribe
oh,
subscribe
is
to your
this when
free
you go to
trial.
mandarinblueprint.com?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because
I don't know.
mandarinblueprint.com is basically just the front end marketing of the course. It's
Mm.
courses.mandarinblueprint.com that you want to go to. Because
Oh,
if you
okay.
go to courses.mandarinblueprint.com, you'll skip all of that stuff. But
Cool.
because but that's good to know. I'll pass that along to Luke that you had that that happens to you, just because you know we we're always trying to figure out the right ways to market an online course. It's very complicated, and so sometimes we might overlook something like, oh look, a member is coming in and they're just constantly getting unnecessary emails. So yeah, I'll address that. But yeah, if you go to courses.mandarinblueprint.com slash
Cool.
library,
Okay.
that'll be, you can skip
Yeah,
over all that. But
that's
yeah,
cool.
cool. All right. Well, final question then. Would you recommend Mandarin Blueprint to somebody looking to learn Chinese?
Absolutely. I mean, I just um there's actually so many things that I actually didn't yet say about the course.
Hmm.
Just like I mean, I really like I I mean I really like everything about Mandarin Blueprint. Um, just because it's, you just know that you will have success, right? It's just that you can't fail. That this is just like, okay, I can totally relax on it, because if I imagine myself learning in a different way, I always would have to ask myself, okay, am I going to forget this? Am I in the end going to be able to actually apply this, and so on? And it's just about fearing to forget, right? And here it's
Mhm.
just like, okay, I'm never going to forget this. It's absolutely sure, right? And even if I forget something, Anki is going to tell me, right? And I had to make a like an how do you say that, like a pause in learning. I had to pause for 1 month actually.
Mhm.
And when I came back and thought, okay, now I have got the time again, and I want to continue learning. I just took Anki, and it just like brought me through the process of getting back on track, and that's it, right? This was I don't even have to think how to approach it. I just do Anki. That's it, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
That is absolutely awesome. Um, the pronunciation course is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's just it's just awesome, right? It's just, I love it. I love it that is split up into several videos. I like the way you explain the pronunciation, and the level of detail, because I'm really detail oriented, especially when it comes to pronunciation.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe not for English, but
Very fun.
um, the the yeah, actually, it just all makes sense to me. Then, and that is just the thing I like a lot, and that's why, I mean, I don't know many people learning Chinese, but if I come across somebody, definitely it's going to be Mandarin Blueprint.
Mm.
And at the beginning, I was like, these guys need probably make a lot of money, right? I couldn't imagine yourself, you not yet being that successful, but I still can't imagine Mandarin not being like a very big player in that like standard courses game.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
we're getting there. No, we're doing all right. We're not like necessarily dominating the market yet, but I think it's on. If I do say so myself, I think it's only a matter of time. Just because it's hard to get people to know about a thing, especially
Mm,
like when it's kind of complicated. Like what makes us better than most courses is hard to we always are constantly trying to encapsulate it more and more and just be like it's this sentence or it's this short paragraph, and we're always working on that, but it's tough to get people to understand why it's better than other things out there. But that's why we do things like talk to people who've been on the course and just constantly get new people trying out the free trial. And I think it's just like I said, we're doing okay. We're just kind of in a place now, like, well, we're running this GoFundMe campaign to try to get the advanced course out sooner. And
mm,
luckily we tend to have, while our numbers are still relatively small compared to say the market leader, the people who do it are very loyal, and so they're very supportive. So we're doing that to try to get the advanced course out sooner. But my prediction is that by the end of this year, we're going to have a lot more people on the course, and it's going to be pretty cool. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
I,
So
I mean, I don't say that you will dominate the market, like, oh, this is the one course that actually like rules all others out or something. Um, but or do you say that in English like this? I don't know. Anyway, but I think it's going to be like one of the standard options, right? If you decide how to
sure.
learn, how to approach the language, is going to be like, okay, you can either go like that course or a university or whatever, and there's also going to be Mandarin Blueprint at, I would say, something like top 3 in the list, definitely like one of the standard options. And that, I mean, because it's not for everyone, right? Obviously, there's always preferences
Sure.
with regards to learning,
Yeah,
but
people with
even going,
aphantasia will struggle with our course. It's the
yeah,
people
and
who can't see things in their mind's eye.
yeah,
So those types of people, sure. I mean, like it's not literally for everyone. I do think that you know, we do a lot of work on the frequency of characters and words, and so as a result, we're thinking a lot about um what are the things that you must know if you want to learn Mandarin, and how do you introduce them in ways that relate to what you previously learned. And while there's no perfection in that. There is a lot of it's like, I don't know, if you're going to switch from one character to another character that has nothing to do with the previous character, it's hard for me to think that that's like one person just learns better by having completely unrelated things next to each other, and another
Mm.
person learns better having related things next to each other. It's like, that seems to me not true. It's like, no, people connect to related things. And so
Yeah.
I certainly, it's like also a generally true thing that people have different learning styles, and so some things appeal and other things don't. You know, like some people are really, really good. Well, first of all, some people are super smart and just can figure
Mm.
out their own way to learn a lot of things. Some people are super interactive. They learn best by like being really engaged with people, you know, and like in my case, I'm a little bit shy naturally. And I'm kind of extroverted, so it's like a bad combo. But I'm a little shy naturally, so like I don't often want to just go up and start talking to people, especially when it's not my native language. So like I would struggle a lot with that type of learning, like the super like social, like I'm just going to go over and try to talk to these people even though I don't know anything about their language, and then they pick up on a few things. I know a few people like that, and I'm so jealous of them because it's
Mm.
like it's pretty awesome. Uh, but yeah, like I certainly, everybody's got their own learning style.
Yeah. So, but even what I want to say is getting there is like in the top three and in those standard choices, if you want. That's such a huge accomplishment. And every time I look at your course, I'm just like, oh man, how did they actually manage to put this together? This is just like so amazing. I have to really congratulate you, and yeah, huge respect. Really,
Well, thank you.
I can or can't imagine the amount of work that went into it. I don't know, but it's amazing, really.
Just every day, just make a little progress every day for 5 years, and then it ends up being a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, that's the same thing I would say to anybody learning Mandarin. Just get a little bit better every day for many years, and it's going to be there for sure.
Mm.
So, well, thanks so much, Yann. I appreciate you taking the time. And anybody listening, check out mandarinblueprint.com. Start a free trial, no credit card required. And also, if you're interested in helping us get the advanced course out faster, I'll leave a link to our GoFundMe below. And thanks again to Yann for the conversation.
Yeah, thank you too. See you.
Bye bye.